Hey Margaret, how are you?
Good, Mr. Coleman. How are you today?
Not too bad.
You're right, Johnny on the spot. Here, I
Yeah, I'm
thought I was
hoping that we
opening
don't
it
get into
early.
rain so I can mow my lawns this afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that.
It's been a soggy one. That's for sure.
Well, 2 days of
And you're,
Which Margaret, I mean, in all likelihood, Michael Gilbert is not joining us. Sean usually joins. Was there anybody else not? What about Ryan? Is he?
Ryan's on his way, and Jennifer will be along as well. Sergeant Merrill was planning to attend.
Okay.
Um,
And Susanna, you said.
yes, and Sean had accepted the meeting. Michael declined it, so.
Dale, you might try turning off the video so you don't have to look. Well, that would just turn you off. It wouldn't turn.
It would.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there may be a couple of moments where I will look,
Okay.
so.
Okay, I'm gonna get started. going to, although John's not here either, right? Oh, no, there you
No,
are.
he's here.
I'm going to assume that Sean will join us at some point. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address the group? No. And
I
no,
believe, Kara, we do have a member of the public present, Susanna Cowan, who has expressed an interest in joining this committee as one of the public members is present.
yes. Hi, Susanna. And she joined us last month as well. Did you have any public comment, Susanna, or are you just listening in?
Mostly here to listen. Happy to be here again. Sorry, I was figuring out my video source. Just happy to be here again. Thank you for having me, and happy to listen in.
Great. Then moving on to the minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from June 13th?
I move that we accept the minutes.
First, Paul, is there a second? Tony? Any?
Excuse me, Chair Workman, Mr. Rose had indicated that he had a couple of corrections in case he wasn't going to be here. I'll read these for you, Dale, if that's easier.
Oh, thank you very much.
He wanted to clarify that it's the Yukon Connecticut Repertory Theater. The minutes reflected American Repertory Theater, so that's a technical correction. And he also asked that there be a correction on page 4 that says he stated that his neighbors called the police at least 6 times, and he did 1 time concerning the same group of student tenants, but no citation was ever issued. So Mr. Rose has asked for those 2 corrections to the minutes.
Okay. So he called once, the neighbors called 6 times.
At least, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are there any comments on those changes? So is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended? I think we have to
As amended.
do the motion again, right? So Paul? Is there a second?
Second.
Tony? All in favor? Any abstentions or
Abstain. I
right?
was not present.
Although I think we learned at one of our other meetings that you can actually vote even if you weren't at the meeting. I hadn't realized that. Someone quoted the language on that.
At the end of the day, it's whatever somebody's comfortable with, but yes, they certainly can vote, but
All right. So moving on, we have Town of Mansfield development updates, either Jennifer or Ryan.
so I'll just say a few words at the front end here, and then I'll turn over to Jen for more of the details. But Jen and I, we had an opportunity to meet last week with both Kara and Robert Corbett from UConn. I think, as everybody knows, in the last year and a half or so, we created a well, the sort of gobbledygook long title of it is Shared Economic Development Framework Working Group, kind of a staff-to-staff group to talk about shared economic development goals and try to arrive at a path forward on all that. And unfortunately, due to I think some changes in staffing assignments and people's sort of shifting availability in their calendars, we've had a little trouble in recent months getting that group together. And it was a larger group. It's 8 or 10 people. So we decided that maybe while we're still trying to figure out the right scheduling for those meetings, something that'll work for all the right parties from the town and UConn, that Jen and I could start meeting on a monthly basis with Kara and Robert. And so we had kind of our first of these morning meetings last week. And of course, we had a lot to catch up on because it's been a while since we had a real deep dive, sit down and kind of catch up on all the issues. So maybe once we get caught up on everything, future meetings will be a little less dense and substantive. But so I won't recreate that discussion here. I just want to say, I think on behalf of Jen and myself, that we thought it was a really productive, really positive discussion to not just, hear from them, updates on different things going on with UConn and for us to share things that are going on in the town side. But I know we use the phrase reset a fair amount, and I just think that this was a good example of that. There is a lot of, as Jen will dive into in a minute, there's certainly a lot of projects going on off campus, development projects that have a huge degree of relevance and significance for UConn and the town. And so it's important for us to have open dialogue and understand where town and university leadership is on these different issues. And of course, just continue to explore different ways that we can collaborate and pursue shared goals. So again, without doing, kind of a play-by-play, we touched on all the topics you'd expect, from development to public safety to, university housing, university projects, but just really want to say that we view that as a very positive jumping off point for these future monthly discussions. So thank you, Karen. I hope you can share that message with Robert. Looks like Tony has her hand up.
Tony?
Yeah, one of the problems with those discussions in the past is that there hasn't been anybody from the academic side present. And the people in the administration really have no knowledge of who is developing projects that might in fact contribute to economic development in town. Robert is clearly in the right place to talk about student housing. But there's the economic development piece, I think, really needs to be explicitly added to that discussion. And I really hope you do something about that. Before she became interim president, we had invited Radenka to join us to join that group for a couple of discussions, and she had a lot to say and made some very significant contributions from her research administrative perspective. So at the moment, the only economic development project that I'm aware of is the track for autonomous vehicles. But I'm hoping that there can be some development that leads to job creation, not just housing creation, that comes out of these relationships.
Yeah, I guess a few add-on comments. So just so folks know, it used pre-COVID, Robert, myself used to meet with the town manager and then whoever the town manager. So we were trying to get back on track with having those monthly meetings. And it's more so that we don't have a delay in when there are things that need attention, that we're not having to quickly pull together meetings. The framework in particular was created to address putting a working document explicitly related to economic development. It is certainly something we're still hoping to do. And I know we spoke about at our meeting this month about adding an economic development focus to our monthly meetings as well. So we did discuss that, and I think that is our intention moving forward. I will say, I can't say that I agree with your comment about Robert. Robert is looped into anything and everything from academic to non-academic, so he certainly knows all the things. He may not be looped in from the standpoint of if the provost is designing a new curriculum, for instance, or if there's a disconnect with some of the work that the foundation may be doing. But we'll be, I don't want to doubt, Robert plays a significant role and certainly understands all things that are economic development. But I certainly hear what you're saying in terms of making sure that there's a voice of academia. I can't say that that will be there is not one person, and we've talked about this before, that has the role of that type of knowledge. So it has more to do with us having these open communications and then us seeking the information.
Yeah. Kara, I have two technical questions. What is Robert's job title and where does he fit into things? And secondly, who is the vice president for research these days?
So Robert's title is Executive Director of University of Connecticut Planning and Design. So he reports to Laura. Laura's team, Sean is a member of that team. They get involved in, the easiest way is they are in new projects, whereas when it's a renovation, that's under the facilities arm, which also isn't always the case, but most times Sean's team is new development and facilities is existing renovation. That's the short answer. The interim vice president of research is still Pamir Alpay. It's been Pamir for ever since Rudenko was named interim, which is almost 2 years ago, believe it or not.
Can he be looped into your discussions early?
Again, we loop him in as appropriate. He certainly is engaged in those, but really Ann DeLeva, the provost, is more of the person. You're speaking specifically about research, and is about all academic, not just research. Sean, did you want to add anything, or you're? I will say that I'm also reaching out to, and this has more to do with the work that Cynthia does and the partnership and the town. We do have a new position, a newer position under VP for research that's about outreach and engagement and recruitment. So I will be meeting with that person. She's new to UConn, to find out the best way to kind of loop her into these conversations as well.
Yeah, Kara, I would only add that one, Ryan, I'll be happy to pass on your comments as well. He's literally 2 doors down from me as I speak. And I would only say that on the planning side of our office, Kara's right, we do get engaged into the research enterprise quite a bit, as most ideas require some level of planning on the physical plant of the house, whether it be early thoughts on renovations or additions or new facilities, as Kara mentioned. So we don't claim to know everything on the academic side of the house, and that's certainly not the case. However, we do get engaged early and often with the planning stuff, where our construction projects are more about design and construction. Planning is very broad.
So Ryan and Jennifer, do you have updates to share?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I'll turn it over to Jen.
Great. So there's a couple things high level on the planning side. Thank you, Sean and Robert was there. We had a community open house to talk about all of our planning initiatives that are under the name Mansfield Tomorrow. And that includes one of the things that includes is the Northwest Vision and Strategy Plan. It's really about the Northwest Mansfield neighborhood. And as well as the facilities master plan. And then the third project is the Parks and Rec master plan. But for this group, I just wanted to let folks know that we're starting to develop lists of focus groups and then individual interviewees. And so we will be having a sort of community interest group committees focus group. And I was hoping that there could be a representative from the Town Gown group, if folks thought that was important. I'm happy to discuss this just with Ryan a little bit more and Kara a little bit more, but it would be great that this focus group would be our different committees like the Sustainability Committee, the Economic Development Commission, Joshua's Trust, but just to kind of represent this this group's perspective and then bring it back to the group as to what they learned. So I'm not sure if we could discuss that today and kind of name someone, or if we'd like to take some time to think about that. It could be perhaps one of the community members at large, like Dale, as our community member, our public representative. Sean, we may tap into you as a student rep because we do want to hear from the students as well. So we'll be reaching out to a number of different student groups, but maybe you can help us.
It certainly may be something I'd be interested in knowing a little bit more, but it sounds intriguing.
And
Okay,
just to clarify, you mean Sean Dunn, not Sean Vasington.
that is correct.
It's not just Sean Vasington.
I know, too many Sean, sorry. Sean Dunn.
Students,
Right. And Sean Vasington, I'm sure we'll be talking with you also about this, but from a student perspective, Sean Dunn, maybe I'll have your contact information and we could chat and you could help me identify some students that we should be speaking with.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Okay, great. And Dale, this would just be, the focus group will be just to hear some of your perspective on what you want to see in Northwest Mansfield, some of the challenges, some of the opportunities. But it would be about no more than 2 hours, and you'd be in a group, and it would be a facilitated discussion by our consultants, FHI Studio.
Okay, yes.
And of course, I'll be reaching out to Kara to try to, and John Armstrong to try to get some other names from UConn as we move forward. So on the application and development side, we still continue to be very busy. Last night, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted a temporary and limited moratorium on high density housing that goes throughout all town, the whole town. There are a few exceptions to that. That does not impact anything that is already in the queue, either from a planning and zoning side or an inland wetlands side. So basically the developments that I'm going to talk about after this will not be impacted, but any new developments, there will be a moratorium, and they're hoping it will be just 6 months. And it will allow us to allow the Planning and Zoning Commission to kind of reset, look at the regulations, kind of diversify and encourage a different housing type, because the types of developments that we are getting are very similar. So that will go into effect August 30th, because we do have to take time to notice that in the newspaper, and then there's a 15-day appeal period. So August 30th, that will go into effect. So that was last night. We also closed the public hearing for wetlands on the hub at Mansfield, which is the development on both sides of North Eagleville Road. And that's an 1,171 bed development with some commercial. So it's basically, it's on 4 parcels, and it's a redevelopment of that whole King Hill, North Eagleville area. There are 2 remaining parcels, one which is owned by Yukon, and then the other one, Wings Over Stores, and there's a barber shop in there. That those 2 parcels are not included as part of that development. Tomorrow night, I believe we will close the public hearing on the special permit application for 497 Middle Turnpike, also known as the Villa Hills Golf Course. That's 262 units of a mix of 1, 2, 3, and studio apartments. Next, we've got the public hearing for the Villages at Four Corners, which is the vacant portion of the parcel that Toast at Four Corners and Hops 44 is on. That's for 116 units, a mix of studio 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. Both the golf course project and the what I call the Toast project, they are building 15% of their the units for affordable housing on site, as well as 5% of those units will be workforce housing. So, and those will be restricted for a period of 40 years. The affordable will be available to households earning less than 80% area median income. Workforce is designed as those earning 120% of area median income, no more than those levels. So let's see. The Villages at Four Corners, that's on September 5th, that public hearing will open. King Hill Road, the Hubbard stores, their special, or Hubbard Mansfield that special permit application, the public hearing is going to be held on September 18th. Eagleville Green, we just got some good news from them. They are hoping to have, they are almost there with their financing. It has been a very challenging process for them. Just they've had to put together a lot of different pieces for their financing, but they're hoping to have an official groundbreaking either in September or October. So stay tuned. I'm sure lots of folks from the community will be invited to that. And we did also the 541, 555 Middle Turnpike. Those are 2 parcels in 2 different zones. One developer, they withdrew their wetlands application because they ran out of time, but they did resubmit last night. And they have a public hearing scheduled tentatively for October 2nd. So with that, I think I hit it all. There's a lot, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Brian?
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you. Could you clarify, are we getting 227 apartments on the King Hill, the hub at the stores?
So that is, they're coming in as a group dwelling. So that is that zone, PB4, and actually the institutional zone are the only 2 zones in Mansfield where you could come in and sort of develop by the bedroom. So they're actually coming in as a group dwelling, and it will be 1,171 bedrooms.
That's a lot. I didn't realize that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know we focus more on this side of 195, but what is the what's it called? Champagne Motors.
So Champagne Motors, they are, they've begun excavation. They still have a few things to get their zoning permit. They're waiting for DOT to get an encroachment permit, and they are also waiting for their sewer permit. So, but that, obviously they've started construction there. That's going to be, my understanding, it's 3 tenants, 2 restaurants, one with a limited service, one with a drive-through, one with a limited service drive-through, and then there's Aspen Dental, which is their medical office. So I believe I've heard publicly, so I'm sure I can share this, 5 Guys, Chipotle, and then Aspen Dental, and unless that's changed since their attorney announced that to us in a public meeting.
Wow, those are 2 popular chains.
Yeah. I see Sean Dunn smiling. It seems like Chipotle is super popular with students. And I know people in our office are very excited about it.
So
I'm
does
very
that mean that
excited.
Chipotle has pulled out of the other project they were thinking of?
So Chipotle came in for a pre-application on what is called, we refer to as parcel E, which is the 1 acre parcel that is part of the Mansfield Apartments site. So we have not heard from them. It's my understanding that Chipotle is not, they're not going to be moving forward with that. And so I'm not, there are no live applications, and I'm not sure what that 1 acre parcel on the corner of South Eagleville Road and 195, what the intended use will be for that.
Any questions for Brian?
Yeah, back to the King Hill project. That's kind of private property, very close proximity of University of Connecticut, and it will be taxed by the town of Mansfield. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then we're talking over 1,100 units,
1,100 beds.
1,100 beds, which
Yeah.
could turn into 1,100 cars, correct?
Not necessarily. They will have a parking garage. They are seeking a parking reduction, but they're going to have a parking. It will be structured parking over there.
Okay, what main tributaries of roads do you think those cars will affect mostly? We're talking South Eagleville, North Eagleville, or 195, you know, what is there any traffic studies that have been done?
Yes, there is a full traffic study that's being peer reviewed by Weston and Sampson, and their comments. We have received their comments and we forward them on to the developer. So that will go through our normal peer review. They'll do a traffic study that's based on, you know, traffic engineering best practices. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And I guess, and Sean might know more, but don't forget, UConn recently had a pedestrian safety study, and one of the intersections was that intersection right near where King Hill, where Discovery Drive, North Eagleville, North Hillside. And
Yeah.
as a result of that, there will be modifications to that intersection.
I know Derek July was involved with that. I'll make sure that the applicants are fully aware, and I'm sure Derek, who is involved with the review of these projects, will make sure that that happens as well.
Might just also mention under sort of the town updates here, because UConn, you know, certainly was a supporting partner for our efforts here. Want to just share in this forum. I know it's been shared with the town council and other meetings, but we did unfortunately fail to get funding, earmark funding, congressional member directed funding for the multi-use trail that we've been pursuing to connect the Four Corners with the downtown, specifically the Tower Loop Road / Horse Barn Hill area. So our efforts are going to continue on that front. We view this as an imperative project, given, you know, the not just the development that already exists in the Four Corners and the concerns about pedestrian safety under current conditions with having students walk in the road on 195, whether they're going to the Four Corners area or back from the Four Corners area. But as many of these new projects that are in various stages of review and approval and construction, as those come online and there's a much higher density of residents living in the Four Corners, it's going to be absolutely critical that we have a safe way to get people, whether it's on foot or on bike, out of the road and get them from A to B. And so we're going to continue to push that. Hopefully we'll continue to have UConn's full support for that, but just wanted to share that with the group that unfortunately it does not appear yet again that project is going to receive federal funding this year.
Sean?
That's unfortunate to hear, Ryan. You'll continue to have our support. I guess this is similar to the first time we didn't get the appropriation for the same stretch of road. I would I would advocate for the south side of campus for the same reasons and maybe even more so. I know that don't have development projects putting additional beds and feet on the street. However, there currently is not a route at all from the south, from rental facilities south of campus. And at least on the north side of campus, there's maybe not a bit circuitous way onto campus, but there is a safe route onto campus 44 via Discovery Drive that will get one safely onto campus and over to Store Center or downtown Store. Sorry, I can't believe I did that, Cynthia.
Anything else? Sean, Sean Dunn, student, had to leave. Okay, moving on, Mansfield Downtown Partnership Economic Development, Cynthia.
Thanks, Kara. Just a couple of updates. The Economic Development Commission will be reviewing the hub housing or mixed use development next week that Jen referred to. So we'll have a chance to get to know more about that project from the development team. 3 new businesses coming into downtown Stores, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, but Square Peg Pizzeria will be going into the former Geno's. I happened to go to the one in Vernon on Friday, and if it's going to be like the one in Vernon, they have a lot of fun things to offer in terms of trivia night, brunch, you know, so they seem pretty entrepreneurial. So we're excited to see them come. Pliables, which is another, I would say, regional business. They'll be going into the former 7-Eleven. They probably the closest one to us is in West Hartford, if you want to check it out. Haven Hot Chicken is coming from New Haven, and they will go in the former Wingstop. I think what's most exciting about Pliables and Haven Hot Chicken is they are UConn alums. So it's really great to see the alums want to come back to Mansfield. We have the Connecticut Countryside Group, so Bolton, Tolland, Mansfield, and Coventry. We have worked with our advertising consultant to develop a brochure to promote the 4-town area, and I'll be distributing the ones in Mansfield soon. If you have ideas about where to put the brochures, let me know. We'll be going to the various town offices, realtors, and different businesses. And then just in terms of events, we had a rain date last week on the movies. So we do have 2 movies this week on Wednesday and Friday, and then our 3rd and final movie a week from Friday. Festival is in full swing. Our deadline for booths was Friday. We may extend it. The committee's meeting today, but if you are part of a group that wants to have a booth, please let us know as soon as possible so that we can get you in the queue and get you on the site plan. I think that's all I have, unless any partnership or EDC members have any other comments.
I'm curious, is there any further communication with the Greek Orthodox father about I know that Sean was mentioning about the development with the granite, et cetera, and also the beautiful thing about saying it's a cultural resource for Stores. Any further development of their willingness to be a source or a space for a kind of a multicultural festival, et cetera? I know that's something new that wasn't talked about, but I just wondered how far along there may be dialogue with the Greek Orthodox to engage more in the community, and how we can help in the funding.
Yeah, so I can answer part of that, Dale. So Elias Tomasis and the Greek Center group has been a partner with the Downtown Partnership, for 20 years. Kara and Ryan and I were going to have a tour of the museum, but our schedules conflicted. So we're still trying to set up that meeting. And also the discussion of a cultural district in Mansfield. We've begun that discussion with the Southeast Northeast Cultural District. I'm sorry, Cultural Coalition. And that's something that's sort of a fall project for the EDC and for me. So certainly the Greek Church would be part of that. In terms of funding, I'm not, that was probably one of the questions we need to talk to Elias about. I'm not sure what their needs are in terms of funding at this point, if there are any.
I wonder if there, this may be presumptuous on my part, but if I would love to have a meeting with you to be in. I'm very interested in a large grant from the Connecticut, the Community Investment Fund that could help with the church and also allow it to be a very possible place for multicultural or multicultural, multi-community festival.
Yeah, and I wonder too if talking to, and her name is escaping me right now, but the head of the State Office of the Arts, she might be a good resource too for options of funding.
Yeah, I would love for the town of Mansfield to go after a grant that I talked a little bit with Tony about, and would love to meet with you or your committee to talk about it, because it would really take a commitment from the town and perhaps other towns to get this. Would be a huge amount of money.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I can, Ryan and I can talk about it offline and then circle back.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dale, in my capacity of bringing in third party and new business to UConn, I would be interested in whatever it is you're referring to.
Okay.
Any other questions for Cynthia? Moving along, Sean, construction updates.
Thanks, Kara. And I will share my screen as I usually do. And point us to the map. Before I start, I'd like to, since we just finished talking about businesses around town, Tony, thank you for the referral to the new taco shop. It was in fact fantastic. And I hope others have a chance to meet Todd and his partner and enjoy their food, because it was really unique and amazing. I think it's our motto in Mansfield now.
I think it's better
Yeah, it was very good.
and less expensive.
Indeed. So since last month, not a lot has changed on this map. I'm going to pan out a little bit to show you that the areas colored in orange are the active construction sites. This is if I expand the map legend, you'll see that I have the summer 23 session, the current period layer on, and all other future semesters and sessions off. So let me just collapse this again. So the only big difference on the map since our last meeting is Mansfield Apartments is now no longer shaded in orange. That site is demobilized and stabilized. We are working through some lingering issues with related to the establishment of the grasses out there. They were lucky enough to get a germination in spite of the weather, but the rain's been coming so hard at times that it's created some new drainage flows on site that's not allow it to fully establish. So they're working on it as punch list activities continue, but more or less the site is demobilized and stabilized. Zooming in on the big project going on right now, the residence and dining hall facilities. We have not yet mobilized this stretch to make utility connection to 195. However, it's still planned for this month before students arrive, and we are still tracking Mansfield Road will be reopened for move-in weekend, which, by the way, for those of you that may not realize, move-in weekend this year starts on Thursday, not Friday. There was a 4th day added to the schedule to reduce the amount of moves and traffic on Friday for freshmen or first years. And right now, just to get off topic a little bit, as of a couple of days ago, we're expecting about 2,000 move-ins each day on Thursday and on Friday. And we expect by Tuesday of that week, before Thursday happens, we'll already have about 3,000, maybe as much as 4,000 already on campus via early arrivals and other accommodations. So we do anticipate getting this done by the last Thursday of August. And so it remains on the map now, and that's specifically this L and utility connections to 195. It's important to this group because it will create some delays in 195 with no closures, but alternating lanes and probably some steel plates during the overnight hours. Pedestrian routing around the construction zone is still shown in blue, and road closures are shown in magenta. And you can see Mansfield Road will close again at some point in the project, but you see as we enter the fall semester, it's open, and then we move over to Coventry Lane to do some work there. So we've already, I think I might have mentioned at an earlier meeting that we've already been in touch with the region or district over at E.O. Smith superintendent to let them know that they should communicate to their parents that that will not be available as a cut through for morning drop-offs as it has been historically. I'll just quickly touch on 2 things that aren't on the map and remind everyone that this map is accessible via our construction website at UConn.edu/construction, and the map is linked right there. 2 things not shown on the map are related to our SEPA activities, the Connecticut Environmental Policy Act. We just concluded the 30-day comment period on Whitney House demolition. We thank you to the town for their compiled comments. We did receive those, and we're now culling through all the comments. We received, I think, in excess of 15 or so different commenters. And so we're culling through those then to begin the post-scoping notice period, which we anticipate will take no less than 3, maybe 4 weeks to get through that phase. And there will be all the comments will be published with responses in the post-scoping notice itself. We have, as of this morning, published a new scoping notice for a new project. It's going to be located over here, and I'll actually, if I can get this out of the way, stop the share and reshare it. So in this morning's edition of the Environmental Monitor, we published a scoping notice for the new proposed School of Nursing building that will be located. Right now, it is proposed to be sited near the Naden Clinic and the Brain Imaging Research Center. This is a conceptual site plan that was part of the notice. This website is linked in the notice itself. It's a university website, it's a project information page that's linked in the notice itself, but I also have on this page the scoping notice itself. So either go to the Environmental Monitor, which will look like this, and it'll direct you back to the project information page for additional information, which looks like this. And note that the scoping period, 30-day scoping period, begins today. It'll conclude on Friday, September 8th at 5 p.m. And we did opt to have a public meeting for this one as well. And that is set for Wednesday, August 30th at 6 p.m. Kara, I'm happy to take any questions.
Jen?
So just with the, usually the town council and planning and zoning commission submit joint comments, and due to both the planning and zoning commission and town council don't have a second meeting in August. That's correct for town council, right, Ryan?
That's correct. I was just
Yeah.
wondering, given the
Yeah.
logistics, there
So
would be likely a special meeting of the council in August, but this would not be business that they would be tending to then.
So we could get, right now, the council meets on September, the PCC meets September 5th and council meets September 11th. So is there a way that we could get our comments to you, like say the 12th or 13th, just because
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah,
great.
we've extended that courtesy to the town in the past for the same exact reason.
Okay, that would be super helpful. Okay, great. Then we will plan to get our comments to you, I think we should be able to get them to you by the 13th after the council and PCC get a chance to vote on them.
Okay, I'll let our folks know.
Thank you.
Sure.
Brian?
Thanks, Sean, for your presentation. Could you refresh my memory on what happened with the dredging project of Mirror Lake, and whether or not the university is gonna try to go ahead and maybe reapply for that, or yeah, just give me an update on that.
Sure thing. And there'll be more to come in probably a couple of months, Brian, but the gist of it is that the budget was drastically reduced on that project as well. And it happened to several projects as fiscal realities set in. And we spent, when that news came to us late last fall, we were just at the finish line. We had already about to sign a GMP contract with our construction manager and had all the documents complete. However, we were tasked with working with DEEP over the course of 7 working meetings after the new year, and came up with a interim solution that is tailored specifically to the compliance and dam safety scope of work. And that's allowed us to get the project back within budget. Since April, we had to revise our feasibility study. We just completed the first enhanced schematic design phase, and we're about to initiate the construction document phase this Thursday. So while it won't include dredging, which was a very large part of the project, there was a tremendous amount of material that needed to come out of there. That'll be a future phase of work, and our work will essentially focus on the dam itself and its issues, both with dealing with the amount of stormwater necessary during significant storm events, getting the amount of freeboard necessary for it to be compliant, and fix safety issues associated with those flooding events and the spillway.
Thanks.
Still a lot of work, but concentrated right at the dam.
Thanks for the update. So you don't really think that you're gonna have any environmental hurdles? You may have, but anything that'll actually stop the dredging in the future?
Well, we did run that project as well through the full SEPA project, which included an environmental impact evaluation. And the work that we're proceeding in the near term is still a component thereof. And the work that's getting deferred to a future phase is still the original project that had its environmental impact studied.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mayor?
A quick question, Sean, I know you've told us this in the past, but somebody asked me and I didn't know how to answer it. All your work on the dorms, are you increasing available beds or decreasing available beds for this coming year and the year after?
Sorry, my mute button was hidden. I don't know, Tony. I only have the move-in counts right now. I did ask that question of our Res Life folks. Thursday of last week after a planning meeting for moving. I don't yet have an answer.
So
Unless
you're
Kara,
doing-
do you have?
I can't, I know we've talked about it before, and maybe John would actually know. I feel like we're remaining steady, though. I don't think we're up or down.
Well, I'd heard that you
For
needed
years.
housing for about 500 people.
Mayor, is the question, are we extending or expanding our beds? If we-
That's one, yes.
So there is a plan in place there is a housing master plan that is in place. That really is contingent and dependent on budgetary constraints of the university. So what that would mean is if we add South Campus residence halls, we open that building, the residence hall in fall of 24. A plan originally was to start looking at older residence halls that are currently in existence and still operating as residence halls to determine if they need to be renovated or brought up to date. So there was a plan at one point as new residence halls came online to look at older residence halls, which may create this continual balance of keeping us at 12,000 beds. With the Mansfield Apartments project being put on hold, we're not sure where we'll be in fall of 24 to continue that master plan, looking at the ability for us to renovate existing buildings. Sean, is that pretty accurate?
Fumbling through these two screens again. Yeah, and I'm sorry. I guess I understood the question would be what happens between now and that residence hall opening in 2024. But that sounds right. Tony, if I understood your question correctly, I don't know that answer. All I know is that we were told last week that housing is full, is 100% full for this going into the fall move-in. So I don't know what number that is and how it compares to previous years.
And what about we are hearing that people within, or I've been told that people within 20 miles of campus are being told to be housed at home with their families, and that there's a real shortage of housing for first and second year students?
So
Well, first year students are guaranteed housing, I believe. So
they are
that
guaranteed
would,
housing. There are some exemptions that exist, and that exemption typically in a given academic year, we see that number of exemptions be about 200 to 300 students that don't live in on-campus housing. You know, one of the ways that we can look at accommodating everyone and making more room is, yes, if someone lives close enough to have them commute from home, but I don't know, Mayor, if that is actually something that we're doing. The wait list currently is quite lengthy. Last note I heard was around 400 students on the wait list. We're opening at around 12,300 students, and that is with reopening some lounge space that we had used as what we referred to as swing spaces for a long time. Those have been reopened as bedroom spaces to accommodate the high demand that we're seeing this year.
Because of course, every time you have overflow, we worry in Mansfield that the overflow is going to result in more student housing in neighborhoods and with all of the problems that are associated with that.
I can say, Mayor, that even today, as we speak, there are vacancies at least 5 separate large apartment complexes across Mansfield and Willington. So there are existing vacancies. I'm still fielding calls from a number of students that are looking for housing, and I'm able to accommodate them. The challenges are students looking for affordable housing close to the university where they don't have a vehicle. So we look a little further out what's on the shuttle line, but there still is plenty available off-campus housing as we speak.
Thank you.
that's a good segue. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, this question's for John or Sean, whoever can answer it. You don't have the numbers on the housing being at 100% full. What are the enrollment numbers like? What kind of projections do you have on enrollment from last year to maybe 4 or 5 years out?
You know, Brian, I can start, and Sean can jump into, last year was the first year that we grew enrollment more than we typically had. Typically, we see an enrollment up to 3,600, 3,700 students. Last year, we increased that enrollment over 4,000. This year, we're in the same situation. So as we look at our housing availability and opening a new residence hall in the fall, hopefully that will help in terms of looking at our transfer students and students that may have missed deadlines. So, you know, as the enrollment for the last 2 years has increased, we have seen a higher demand for on-campus housing. The plan for next academic year has not been released yet. All we can talk about is what the current and last year's academic plan was, and that was a defined increase in enrollment for a first-year class.
Thank you.
And I can actually add to that because this came up, Ryan and Jennifer specifically asked me to talk about enrollment. So in terms of the freshman class, we are 4,200 first-year students. So that's 130 over last year. Transfers, we're at 650. That's 50 less than last year. So total new is 4,850. Total undergrad at Storrs will be around 19,000. But as I understand it, that there's no expectation at this time of growing enrollment.
Harry, just to confirm your 19,000 number, that's students enrolled at the Storrs campus, but they may,
Yes.
that would be inclusive of people that commute in from another community.
I didn't get that much from Nathan. I just said total undergrads at
Right.
Storrs.
Well, it sounds like it would be right. So all kids that are registered as undergrads at the Storrs campus, it sounds to me like regardless of their originating zip code. So, okay.
That's correct. That is correct, Ryan. Though that 19,000 undergraduates at the Storrs campus includes not only our residential population of a little over 12,000, but also includes the additional population of students that commute from home or live in rentals in Mansfield or beyond. So, and they live everywhere from Manchester, Vernon to Willimantic. So yes, that is correct.
Sean?
Nothing to add on the enrollment side, but I did just check with another contact in Res Life, and it looks like it's about 12,400 on campus this going into the semester.
Must have squeezed another 100 in since I.
Yeah, somewhere.
It's odd that there are vacancies given these increases.
I am too, Mayor. I am too. There is, I won't name the properties, but there are significant vacancies in some that are very close to the institution, close to UConn, right here in Mansfield, and some further out are still trying to rent their beds and get students into beds and offering some pretty good deals, and I'm still not seeing the yield.
Are parents keeping their kids home because they can't afford housing?
They cannot. Some of these students who are transfer students are actually coming in from out of state. They're coming in from distances farther away where they can't commute. So they need to find a place to live. Plus our international student population, many of them have just been approved for visas in July, early August. So they are contacting us and seeking out some options. It's becoming challenging because people are looking for a price point that's lower than what is available. I know that Jennifer Kaufman came to a property management meeting, and I mentioned the challenges with opening new properties, and if we're seeing higher rent rates, that will be a continued challenge of trying to fill those beds.
Brian?
Now that you brought up the subject of out-of-state students, what is the percentage of enrollment that is actually out of state?
Has remained steady at around 30%. There was a time at which we have a state statute that required us not to exceed a certain threshold of out of state. And that was around 30%. Yeah.
What is the percentage of international students and how has that gone down? I was just curious about that.
Man, you guys are like data.
Sorry.
I
You
wish
can-
I
you
had
can get
known
back
that.
to
I
us
would have
on that.
come with the whole report.
Yeah, you can get back to us.
I don't know the percentage.
Okay.
I mean, all of our fact sheets are online, so you can certainly find that for
I'll Google it.
last year's data. With, you know, minimal changes based on the percentage increase in students overall. I would say it's fairly consistent.
You don't think there's major change due to recovery from COVID?
I don't know. John, do you?
Some of the international students for international students did experience a significant delay in getting visas approved all the way through, we saw that through 21-22. So we are probably at a point where there's a recovery of students looking to return to international students looking to return. But I do not have any data to support an increase or decrease at this time.
I know we're getting close on time here, so I do want to have John give an off-campus update and also make sure that we give an update about student affairs in general. Fall campus plans, for the most part, Sean pretty much gave everyone the update, so that worked out. So John, do you want to report?
Of course. I just wanted to let everyone know, and I met with Kara, Jennifer Kaufman, the mayor, and Ryan Ellsworth last week to let them know that last fall of 22, I lost 2 professional staff. In spring of 23, as we're looking to rehire those staff, as Sean mentioned earlier, budget cuts struck pretty hard at the university, and we were not allowed to, we were unable to fill those 2 vacancies, which led to us making a very difficult decision on the program that was founded in 2007 at UConn, off-campus and commuter student services, which works closely with Mansfield and the state police. We are no longer continuing with the program as a staffed program. It will continue as a resource via a website. My role is currently changing. I'm currently in a new role at the university as the interim director for our student care and concern. And so that is one that began last week and will continue. It is challenging for me based on the workload in that new position to continue to doing much more of the outreach that I had done in the past. We are looking at the website that we have created as the resource will continue to house Mansfield ordinances, including the nuisance ordinances, the off-campus housing database that was founded in 2005 at UConn, helping students find off-campus housing, not only in stores, but at all of our campus will continue to exist. So promoting properties, even the new properties coming online will be there. There'll be no change whatsoever in how referrals are managed through our Office of Community Standards. And as always, student behavioral referrals should be sent through the off-campus priority referral link, and they'll be managed as they typically have been managed. And I will say this, as we enter the 2022-23-24 academic year, we'll continue to look at how we're doing this work, what it looks like in terms of our engagement. But at this point, due to budgetary restraints, we can no longer continue the program. And that means engaging with students off campus, knocking on doors, responding to complaints. I will say that the work I have done during this time, along with property managers, the state police, town of Mansfield officials, has been wonderful. And during that time, we have virtually eliminated problems at large apartment complexes and reduced issues at single family rental. So that is something that I think we all should be very proud of.
I would just say, I know others may have comments to share too, and I'll sort of echo some of the comments I made when we had a meeting with John about his changing role some days ago. But just for the purposes of this meeting, you know, John's been a phenomenal partner to the town. We greatly appreciate all his years of sacrifice and service on behalf of UConn, on behalf of the community. You know, they don't come much better, much more conscientious, and we know that this is definitely a big blow. You know, it's your absence in that role is it's going to be huge. It can't be overstated. You know, your proactive approach to the work and working hand in glove with town officials, with our resident troopers. It really helped avoid problems before they cropped up. And there's always a reactive respond to the problem kind of component, but I think that was dramatically reduced because of your proactive efforts. And so we know that your transition, while I'm sure you'll provide great service and do awesome work in your new role, we know we're going to miss you in your old role. So thank you, John, for everything you've done.
Thank you, Ryan. And I will say, I've shared with the university and with Ryan and with the mayor that I have requested to remain on the town university relations meeting, and that has been met positively. So I would like to continue my role working on this council. I really appreciate this time with everyone and have a lot of institutional knowledge that I can share and help in questions like we did today.
Mayor?
I came on the council in 2009, and in those first couple of years, Betsy Patterson took me to spring weekend a couple of times, and I got to tell you, we are all immensely glad that that is over. My concern, however, is that the population that we are dealing with changes every single year, and you can achieve something one year and have a totally new group. I mean, every year you have new freshmen, new sophomores, new juniors, new seniors. Now, the seniors may have been in town for 2 years, but only 2 years. And I am really concerned that the absence of the regular interaction between the University Department of Student Affairs, the state police, the landlords, big and small, will lead to a true deterioration of behaviors in town. I gotta say, John, you and your predecessor really did heroic work, and that the university has not recognized how critical this work is to the quality of life for its students and for our community is deeply disturbing. I don't know what more to say about it, because even our state troopers change all the time. So all the work that you guys have done with bringing our state troopers on board can be lost easily as they change on a regular basis. There's a lot of rotation in the state police, and we are still hearing from problems of neighborhoods where the wrong state troopers show up and they don't know how to deal with the party, and the neighbors think that nothing has happened and there's been no tickets issued, and so the students have not gotten into trouble. So I can't say strongly enough how important it is to the town that the university recognize the critical nature of this office and its incumbents, or its whoever is there, in keeping the peace and protecting the lives of students. We're going to have a lot more to say about this, but it is. I can't say how disturbed I am by this decision.
I would totally agree with that. It's really a difficult thing to bring back to the community. And I wanted also to thank John in the short time I've been here of our interaction, which I have thoroughly appreciated.
Thank you, Dale, and thank you, Mayor Ryan. I will say one thing, and that is the Sergeant Merrill, the state trooper. He has, I've worked with many state troopers over the time I've been in this role, and all have had significant impacts in a very positive way in this community. Sergeant Merrill came in and has really looked to reinvent this in a very positive and productive way, and that is engage, communicate, and if needed, ticket and refer. And that is what we, in terms of the conversations I do, are really outside of that realm, but in many ways in conjunction with the state police and with town officials. So students are very receptive, Mayor. I hear what you're saying, and I understand, because our transition for undergraduate students is typically we see them transition as juniors and seniors off campus and then graduate. So you're right, there is a continued cycle off campus of new students living off campus that may not have got the message the year before. So that tenacity is helpful. But at this point, due to budgetary restraints, we are The program will be moved to a resource website, and we are going to maintain all of the resources that we typically have promoted to students on that site. So, but thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, I certainly support the peace and quiet in the neighborhoods, and I agree with the mayor that we have made a lot of strides. But we need to be cautious moving forward. I guess a question I would have and would be in, I guess it was an episode that was discussed in the last meeting, dealing with Mr. Rose and a neighbor. The question would be, okay, so maybe the nuisance law didn't work in that particular case. I don't have the details. What would happen to that student if they were referred to student affairs at the University of Connecticut?
Brian, it's a great question. I think, there are thoughts that when a student is referred, there is a significant focus on a punitive response. Everything that we do through the university is educational in nature, and our conduct process is no exception to that. We engage with students in a very positive way. Actually, the letter that goes to students from any response off campus is one that I wrote. And what it speaks about is very similar to a letter that Ryan Ellsworth and myself co-sign every year and give to students. And that is to be respectful and understanding that your actions are impacting others living around you. And the continued behavior at your off-campus rental can result in and will result in further actions if we receive other referrals. So the first response is typically that, a letter in communication to a student. And I will say that is in part due to the fact that when students move off campus, this is a huge learning curve for them. We're hoping that after that first communication, they get it and we don't see more results. That letter has been pretty positive, and we don't see a lot of continued response from students, negative responses from students behavioral-wise, following that outreach from community standards. So that is not going away. That will continue in perpetuity. The link is still there. We just need to have student names in a referral, and typically those referrals come from the state police.
Well, who will the state police contact after you leave that office? And who can we tell neighbors to call when they want to say, I want to call UConn and complain about these students?
At this point, Mayor, I don't have a response of who that would be.
I really worry that there will not be somebody, that it will be left to a secretary to issue a form letter over a signature of a person who is no longer in that role. I
don't think that would not be the case. And I can say, Mayor, honestly, that, as my role transitions into a different area of the university, one of the things that I have said in that transition is that, if and when I can engage, I will. I will say that the nature of my new role is one that is administratively and very time consuming. So it will be challenging for me to commit to that long-term or always and consistently.
Brian?
Yeah, what sort of mechanism right now is available to report misbehaviors off campus? Say I'm a landlord and I've got a tenant that's creating a nuisance, and I want to make a direct complaint about the student myself. What's the best mechanism to do that? Do you have an online complaint form or anything like that?
Brian, I just put it in the chat. There is a direct link, and that's actually for an off-campus party referral. So if there is a party, we can receive the referral through this link. The challenge will be is if there's no names attached to it. Typically what I would do is community standards, when I would communicate, I would go to that address, make every attempt to contact someone who lived at that address to get a name, start the conversation, and then I would manage that complaint that came through. So at this point, if a complaint is received without names, there's very little we can do unless there's known information about that address and who's living there.
But once you move on, there will be nobody to manage that form.
No, that form goes directly to community standards, Mayor. That was, so that form and a referral goes directly to community standards, and community standards would open what they would refer to as an investigation into understanding more about that referral. So it's not as if it would go nowhere. In the past, those referrals bypassed me. They included me in BCC, but they did not go directly to me. It's managed through our Office of Community Standards. And I have already communicated with the director and let them know that, more of this will come directly to them without the additional support from my office.
And who is the Director of Community Standards now?
Kimberly Beardsley, she is in an interim capacity as the director in that role. And so she's currently in that as the services director in that department.
God, I'm beginning to wonder whether you have any permanent staff in your administration. Everybody seems to be interim.
I think, what's happening, there are some transitions at UConn and through student affairs. So I think until we have some defined pathways forward, we'll see interim titles and there'll be more permanent people put into place. So.
Well, and I've commented before that John, Sean, me, we're not interim anything. We've been here, no interims, not going anywhere. You can always rely on us. With that said, I did want to just also draw attention. Michael Gilbert, as many of you know, has left UConn. I think he's rounding out his last 2 weeks of vacation. They will not be naming an interim vice president of student affairs at this time. What they've done is they've taken some of the direct reports of Michael and segmented them, some of which will report to the provost and DeLeva, some of which will report under enrollment management under Nathan Fierst. So the provost was the dean of students, the Center for Students with Disability, and the Care and Concern group. And then under enrollment was Res Life Dining, Recreation, Shaw, Student Health and Wellness, David Clokey, and some of the areas which were under David, which is Student Union. And then John, you're under Nathan, correct?
I'm under Ann DeLeva.
Oh, and then the only other things, I couldn't remember where student activities, which.
It's actually, the way it breaks down right now is there's only 4 units that have moved to align with the provost office. That would be student activities, Dean of Students Office, the Office of Student Care and Concern, and the Center for Students with Disabilities. My apologies. Everyone else at this point will align with enrollment management under Nathan Fierst.
So I will end up asking for a new representative to replace Michael Gilbert on this group as well. Just jumping into fall plans, as Sean already referenced, our early move-ins will be starting. You should already notice a change. There are definitely athletes, football's on campus, other athletic groups are on campus. Early move-in starts starts Friday the 18th. I think that's one of the first early move-in days. Freshman move-in is the 24th and 25th, with classes starting on Monday, August 29th. Any questions about move-in? I think it's pretty. And in addition, this year, whereas other years, the employees have been told to stay home for move-in, this year we were actually told to be on campus and to engage and to volunteer to greet our students and help Res Life with some of the early move-in. So you will see a significant, I think, influx of just vehicles, people, everything back to campus. Any other general questions? And then It's almost 2:30. So any other updates, Mayor?
One quick thing, there are no plans to do anything with the large landlords about student behavior prior to this, or in the first weeks of school opening?
You mean the apartment complexes, Mary?
Yes.
I met with them in July and talked with them. To be honest, we're at such a good point with large properties that they're managing their own behavior, and we've not seen behavior in large apartment complexes since 2015. A focus of mine when I came in 2012 was to diminish or remove those
Right.
problems, and it's done. So we've not seen that problem since 2015. So I'm happy to report that.
Okay, and were you meeting with some of the smaller landlords as well?
The landlords who I've tried to meet with in the past are landlords who are not usually a problem. The ones that we need to engage with are the ones that typically I don't see quite a bit. And that is an area of, will continue to be an area of concern, is having landlords manage issues on their own property. And when behavior starts to flare up, someone notifying them that this is a concern for the community and for a property that they're renting.
Would you notify the Greek associations before you leave that they need to pay some attention to this too?
Not only before I leave, but we'll continue to do that. That's actually a discussion point that I'm having with them as we speak. And with my departure, that's an area that is still open for discussion, but I believe it's an area that we need to focus on and continue to focus on with the Center for Fraternity and Sorority Development, working with students that are living in off-campus rentals. Absolutely 100%.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So a call for any future agenda items? I do think we have to talk about, and the vacancies that we have, and also, I don't know, does this group have bylaws? I'm unclear. Mayor?
I
Well,
don't believe so.
Well, because we've referenced that UConn has this environmental position that's been quote unquote vacant. But I think Sean had shared that there was a point at which time that was a position here, but much of the work that he does often interfaces in that space. So we haven't necessarily felt the need to refill that position in its current manner. So I just think for the next agenda, we have to have a conversation about membership in general.
I think the charge to the committee may include some requirements for membership, and it's part of town ordinances.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out. Where would that?
Margaret?
So I just, I shared with you, Kara, and Mayor Moran in emails this week what the clerk had provided to me. It's an MOA, I believe, and there's where it's spelled out what the membership should be. So perhaps we start by sharing that with the whole committee and evaluating the membership that's outlined in that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So add membership to the next agenda.
And just, I did put something in the chat, just as a plug, please visit the virtual open house and complete the survey and spread the word to folks who you might think would be interested.
So is there a motion to adjourn? Brian?
I move to adjourn.
Second. John Armstrong, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Margaret, just a request, can you put at the bottom of these agendas all the meeting dates? It's just helpful for me to have that like reference. Thank you.
You bet.
Bye.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.